Welcome to the scheduled March 12th Select Board meeting. Before we start, I would like to have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Item 2 on the agenda, public comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight. Seeing none. Kennebec County is not here yet. There's no public hearing. Any adjustments?
Just a typo to the consent agenda. Item F should be February 15th, not January 15th.
Okay. All right. I'm going to back up to item 3, update from the Kennebec County Sheriff's Office. Young man, that's you.
Lieutenant!
Welcome.
Like right now? Sit down.
Yeah.
Where would you like me to go?
Anywhere you want.
Anywhere? How would I come up there? So.
Just wing it, Jeremy.
Well, that's my fault. Update from the Kennebec County Sheriff's Office. What do you want to be updated on?
How things are going, who have you arrested, things like that.
So I got a email thinking I'd have a nice concise form to read from, but instead I got like 15 PDFs I've been working my way through. So for February, so far it looks like there was 80 plus traffic stops. On the details of the town is commissioned us to come out and specifically do. Lots of local business checks, a lot of secondary road community enforcement. Looks like speed is a continuing factor in a lot of the traffic stops. A lot of school zone traffic to create a presence in the schools. Again, forgive me, there's a lot of PDFs to work through. Vehicle summons and complaints, so that's civil infractions, one for a suspended driver. Seems to be a factor in a lot of these stops or suspensions. I think in a lot of the roads, such as Cheney Road, Davenport, Hankerson, Togus, Windsor, Cooper, so on and so forth, Coney Road, Ferry Road, a lot of Butternut Park checks, which I just came from there. Still seems that whenever I do my details, I give some attention to that. The lighting that was put up, at least a year ago down there seems to have deterred a lot of nefarious activity after hours. But still I'll go down during daylight hours and there's still a lot of out of town, like not Augusta, not Chelsea, not Gardner. Just one guy was from like Holton, like, hi there.
What is he doing there?
So when you go down, do you get out and just,
I'll grab a plate, I'll run, and then I'll go up and start talking. If somebody's around, I'll just get up and start talking.
Yep.
So most people are like, hi. So, speeding violations, a lot of business checks, checking in on local businesses. I stopped at a few of them earlier in the shift while they were still open and just asked if there's any concerns, questions, comments, things like that. Some contacts in the community that I've made over the years of patrolling that I haven't seen for a while. I've been assigned to school resource officer for the Gardner School District this year. So my time on the road has been a little less lately. Stop sign, there's a lot of stop sign issues over there on Coney Road. Apparently nobody can see that big red octagon that says stop written in English. I don't know if that's a fault.
How you want to address that in school?
Looks like there's been a couple interactions last week, or this last month, with a veteran who just returned home, needs some assistance, somebody to talk to. It looks like they took a little bit of time on their shift to help them through some struggles, recent divorce, so on and so forth. Let's see. Continue stationary, moving traffic enforcement. A couple of these were inclement weather, so numbers as far as traffic stops were down. Assist with some car crashes. Things like that. Almost done here. Thanks for being gracious with me as I learn. Again, looks like it's stop sign on Coney Road.
Is it Coney or Townhouse?
It's the one coming off from Coney to Hollow, and that Coney Road to Hollow, which is Crystal Falls event. Looks like there was something there at Crystal Falls. One deputy did 8 stops for at least 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. Issued a ticket for 60 and posted 35. Looks like there was an event at our new local establishment on Togus Road and Windsor Road intersection. I'm sure the town is aware of. It's a nice black building with a fence.
Oh, haven't seen that.
No, I can inform you if you'd like to, sir. Nothing nefarious going on, nothing. Just observe some traffic in and out, which I'm assuming with this nice weather, we're going to be getting into that being a more active area. I believe, if memory recalls, don't officially quote me, but I spoke with a deputy when that first came up. They first moved into town, and actually went and spoke with the sergeant at arms. Had a really good conversation. Seemed like we're on the same page. Do what you're supposed to do, we'll do what we're supposed to do, and it seemed like there was a little bit of mutual respect given there. And since then, I haven't heard of any issues. So yeah, so that's good if anybody's concerned about that, which is great. Which is what we want, not just from groups and organizations like that. I mean, we want voluntary compliance, and if we can get that just from having a presence, I think that's well worth the investment that you're making outside of the investment they're already making for us as a sheriff's office. So continue to work hard, provide a service that we can. Again, voluntary compliance is the name of the game, but I mean, you got 80 plus traffic stops last month. How many people drove by and saw that? So the next time that they roll through, right, 5-6 cars pass that traffic stop, next time they go through that area, they're like, hey, someone just pulled over here last time. So it adds up pretty quickly, and move from there. Any questions, comments, concerns?
So is there anything, now that we've been into it for a while, is there anything that surprises you about your detail? Is there anything that you need from us, any more or less, or any suggestions?
Speed continues to be the primary thing that we run into. If we have complaints from town folk, having those go from you to Staff Sergeant Newtill is helpful, so he can disseminate that information to us. If there's a specific road that we keep hearing, now that spring's here and traffic continues and people get all their road toys and stuff like that, like that's good to know, because we can come out on a detail and we can sit there and watch for that. Specifics, I mean, it's tough if somebody's going by your house at 85 miles an hour. But if it's a black motorcycle with really big shiny rims, it's pretty good information to look for, and we can get there and we can try to find reasonable suspicion and pull it over and have a talk with the operator and issue a ticket accordingly, or maybe they just need a warning. All right, so we have some tools at our disposal. But I'd say just feeding us information so we can get down to the ground level patrolman and say, hey, here's how we can get out and enforce it, and here's how we can better serve you when we're out here on these details.
So you're at Gardner, you said, for,
Yes.
so I don't know if you can talk to somebody down there with the vocational kids, just give them a reminder to slow down a little bit, it's not really
It's
cranking.
on my radar.
Yeah, they've been cranking again pretty good, but there's only 2 or 3 of them, but
Like-
every year they do it, but it's just,
Yeah, we had a big issue with them a few months ago. They pulled a lot of their driving restrictions, which seemed to squelch, but I haven't heard anything since then. So if you have anything specific,
yeah.
please let us know. Let me know. You can send me an email, and I can take care of it on mine. And was it the Hollow, the Coney Road, that
Just the townhouse, the Coney that way.
townhouse? Okay, yeah. So that's pretty much what I have. How'd I do?
Good job.
Yeah.
Sherry, you also?
Nailed
Yeah,
it.
I'm good.
No other public comment?
Anybody other than Cher?
I mean, all I can say is I see nothing but sheriff's cars all over the place in this notice.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't speak directly for the sheriff, I can speak for myself, the guys that I work with, but we do take pride in assisting these towns on these special details. I know they're a blessing to us that work them, and we really do care for the community. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to the town here, let them know. They can disseminate that through our chain of command. But when you do get concerns and things like that, we do see them when we're out working our shifts here for you. So please know that your concerns, it's not like they don't go unaddressed, it's just I can only be in one place at one time. So it's, we do take it seriously. We do appreciate what you do for us and hopefully vice versa. So.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
One and done.
All right. Consent agenda. Item A, AP warrant number 25 in the amount of $31,117.53. Item B, payroll warrant week number 8 in the amount of $3,898.82. Item C, payroll warrant week number 9 in the amount of $4,011.74. Item D, payroll warrant week number 10 in the amount of $3,868.53. Item E, payroll warrant week number 11 in the amount of $5,403.64. And item F, minutes of the February, is the date still that 15th, 2025 select meeting?
Yes.
Select meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A, B, C, D, E, and F as read. I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on those? All in favor? All right, schedule items, new business. How do we want to handle these? One at a time?
One of that, this gentleman on the street,
He is, but we're gonna do him,
Well, he's here to help with all of you,
all of what?
all of your ADPAs and things.
Howie.
Oh, no, he's further in the agenda.
oh, okay.
Oh, much farther, let me see, presentation of the,
Who we got listed as first?
Rayanne McKechnie.
Yeah, sure.
Howard, we're gonna get through this and I'll move you up.
Oh, okay, whatever you want,
Yeah.
no worries, thank you.
Okay, so you wanna do number 1 first?
Yeah, yeah, I just, I got a bunch of paperwork here, just one more
Okay.
for us. This is Rand's place, and Mark's is actually up back, you can't really see up there. I took these today. She has done a lot there, but there's still a lot to do. And when I served her in hand for the second time back in February, she said most of those vehicles aren't hers, but I explained to her that they're on her property and she's responsible for them.
She said she's gonna get him out of there, and
I don't know. I mean, I told her she had to get them out of there, but
Have you seen, since your first initial talk with them,
there has been improvement, yes.
okay? I mean, is she willing to continue to move forward? Are you gonna try to get into an agreement with her, or?
I tried to get a hold of her today, but she's in Florida. I did speak with her daughter, and her daughter actually has 2 vehicles there, and told me they'll be coming out of there soon.
I think the mud's playing a factor maybe,
I'm sure it is.
So what's their biggest violation?
Just
For you.
junk cars and parts around the yard.
I mean, part of what you see there, if you look behind that double wide, Mark lives up back. He's got several violations.
And he won't talk to you?
No, I sent him a registered letter, come back unclaimed, sent messages to him through his sister and his mother, and he just not gonna do anything. I was there, I think it was last February with the sheriff's office, because we had a report from the school, the kids weren't being taken care of very well. So I went up, and at that time, they had no water and no septic. I explained to them what they had to do, and as far as I know, it's the same. Junk all over the place up there.
Okay, so Rayanne,
This place.
what are your thoughts? I mean, does she give you the impression that she wants to work with you? I mean, since they've obviously moved some stuff.
Right.
If the daughter said 2 more are gonna be leaving,
I'm still gonna leave a bunch up in there.
I get that.
But
But it's in,
there's no plan. I mean, I've told her what she has to do,
okay,
and she hasn't come out and said, yeah, I'll have this done by the end of March.
okay. Well, now that snow is obviously dwindling,
My suggestion is this, and basically on another one of these, they can agree with me all day long, but if they don't do what they should do, we're right back to ground zero again. So I would like to ask the attorney if we can start an ADP action, and if they agree to things, we'll do it in a court setting. That way, if they don't follow it, we can, we got some meat into this thing. Because without that, we have nothing, you have to start all over again.
Keep chasing it.
Yeah. So a town attorney could probably tell you more if that's realistic or not.
They might just, more motivation for it.
Yeah, then it would be in the courts, if they don't do whatever by a certain date, then they'd be defaulted and they'd be fined $100 a day or whatever.
Have
But
a
if
seat
we
down,
don't-
chairs right there.
But if we don't, and they don't do what they say they're gonna do by a certain date, we're right back to ground zero again.
when will the $100 a day start? They'll be up to the court, or?
What we'll do is probably enter an agreement with the town attorney and the judge and the courts. They would write up whatever we agree to, and if they default, they'd be fined so much a day, or there may be other repercussions. They probably give the town permission to go in at that cost and remove, whatever they had to be compliant.
So, do you want to
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So Cam Ferrante, the town attorney. So the $100 a day penalty technically starts from the date of the notice of the violation. So the first contact that Greg would have had with Rayanne would trigger the start of the penalties. And there's really kind of a couple ways to do this. The town can either try to negotiate a consent agreement with her, where you just enter into an agreement basically saying she's gonna abide by these deadlines and clean up the property. And if she doesn't, she's, confessing to the violations. And then at that point, if she doesn't comply, we file in court a complaint and say that the, defendant, Rayanne, has not abided by the agreement and, we're looking for the implementation of penalties. The other way to do it is to skip the negotiations, if you don't think that you'd have a cooperative partner in the agreement. And sometimes when you get defendants into a court setting, you'll take 15 minutes beforehand and bang out an agreement then, and then enter a judgment in front of the court where you get what Greg's basically talking about, which is a consent judgment doing the same thing as the consent agreement, but if she doesn't comply or if the defendant doesn't comply, then you go back for a contempt order, and then the court can order them to do what's necessary and impose the penalties at that point. So it's really sort of two different ways of accomplishing the same thing, and it depends on whether you want to front load the cost of the complaint and the court filing and service and things like that, or if you just want to try to work it out in a less formal setting to start.
So what you're saying is, she's already accumulated $100 a day from his,
No, that's when it would start if she was found, the default is.
Yeah, if the court agreed and determined that she was in violation of
Okay.
these ordinances, it would be $100 a day per violation from the date of the original notice of violation, whether the court would consider that to be the February 4th notice or the one from earlier. The December conversation that Greg had would be up to the court, but it could be from December. Or as far back
And
as
to give you another piece of the puzzle there, once she was served, she never contacted me. She was in to see the assessor on another matter, and I see her there, and that's when I served the second notice. So other than that contact with her, she never contacted us to make arrangements for anything.
okay, so, and it's your suggestion or opinion to do what?
I would do whatever the town attorney thinks. We need more than just a verbal agreement, because they don't work.
Okay,
The consent agreement would be written, it would be signed by Rayanne or any other violators, and then that would be something you take to the court to get a judgment. So it's a question for the select board as to whether you wanna proceed and try to get that first, or file something in court and then either work out a potential agreement or pursue just a judgment from the court at that time.
and that's something you would write up for us, obviously?
Yeah.
Jake?
I mean, I'm fine with granting us the 80K approval, that way there, you can, it's something to work with, because it's not working, and if it puts fire under them and it gets them motivated and it cleans out, everyone's happy, everything's good, and it's done deal, and it's the way it should be, so I'm fine with moving ahead with that.
Sure.
Marianne's made some effort, so I'd like to do like a consent agreement with her. That still gives him backbone, right? In it.
Yes, so.
The judgment signed by the judge really gives you good backbone.
Okay.
I mean, the other part of this, correct me if I'm wrong, is we'll do a consent agreement through the attorney, but if she doesn't abide by that, then we're gonna have to go to court and do the in-person 80K action in front of the judge.
Right. But she's at least made a effort. So I'd be okay with doing the lesser with her. If Mark and the other person hasn't made any contact with you whatsoever,
Nothing.
I'm okay with doing the 80K.
Yeah, he's got a lot of violations, you get children involved up there, so that's my opinion, that's the route we should go.
Okay.
And to be clear, I mean, there's nothing preventing us from negotiating a consent agreement
Right.
with either person before the date of the court hearing. And it's really just up to them whether they'd like to come to the town and pursue that. You could always have the complaint served and then reach an agreement beforehand.
So it's, you know, it's my thought that if you get into court, and if they go back to, if the judge goes back to February or even December, and those penalties have occurred, I think things get hostile when somebody is standing there and then they find out, you know, they're 30, 45 days at $100 a day. I mean, you know, if I'm a resident, I'm gonna get hostile, I'm not gonna wanna work with you. And I think that's what, I think we need to stay away from that situation.
Yeah, but what we don't understand was when I first served them those notices, I give them a copy of the ordinance, the laws, and they know this right up front.
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying to look out on the other side too.
Right, but if they don't read it, and they don't communicate with myself, the town manager, that's on them. That's, well,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with Sherry.
Not only that, or anybody, just gotta get it cleaned up.
yeah, I mean, if they're cooperating, making progress, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
But I mean, with Mark, it's been over a year.
Yeah, well, he's being defined anyway, so.
Right.
But when you do have somebody that it is starting to make progress,
Right. So maybe we do
That's-
a consent agreement with her and,
I would be okay with that. I mean, there seems to be some some,
They have done something,
Yeah.
yes.
So, if you want to pursue a consent agreement for Ray Ann, my advice would be to authorize us to contact her and negotiate a consent agreement with the, subject to the approval of the town manager. And then also authorize us to pursue an 80K if that doesn't work out, just so we don't have to come back to the select board for approval later on in case those negotiations,
Can you put a
they're
timeline
not
on that or
you
something?
need a motion for that?
yeah,
A
give
date
us
on it.
30, 45 days or something, to see if we can
I'm
get a
gonna
consent
second his
agreement.
motion. So. Yes.
He wants
Yeah.
to use what
That-
you said
yeah,
as his
that-
motion.
perfect.
So
motion. You
you,
should stay here all night
uh,
then.
You'd invite a motion to, negotiate a consent agreement, subject to the town manager's approval, with Ray Ann McKechnie regarding the violations at 78 Windsor Road, and, if that agreement isn't signed within 45 days, to commence an 80K.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? All in favor? So that's Rayanne that we just did, right? And Mark, we're just gonna go ahead with the 80K.
80K, correct.
So I'll make a motion to, have the town manager or the CO. How do you want it?
Attorney Ferranti, how should that motion move be today?
For
For
Mark
Mark.
McKechnie,
Yes.
it'd just be a motion to approve the commencement of a
Okay.
80K. land
So I'll
use
make-
enforcement.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, approve, the proceedings of an 80K, against Mark McKechnie, 82 Windsor Road. I don't have a lot or map, no. Don't need it? No, all right, that's my motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? All in favor? All right. Mr.
Map
Wu-
13, lot 84,
I put that in my motion, if you can. What? 84, okay. Okay, Bradley York, 18 Hillcrest.
We went through this whole process with him once. And he come in and paid everything up, and shortly thereafter, he ended up in jail.
Quite a bit of stuff out though.
Yeah, he moved the camper out of there. And there was a with a car inside, he moved that out of there, but if you look further back, it's a lot of junk up in there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He called me about 3 weeks ago, and I called him back, the phone was disconnected, so I don't know where he is.
Do you have no way to contact him at all?
No.
So,
I recommend an 80K action, partially based on what we went through before with him. The camper on the road, that cost us what, $4,000 or $5,000, get that out of the road. Plus all the attorney fees in dealing with this prior to this incident. I didn't think it.
we have to get that back? Do you know?
I don't think so.
No, and we had actually tax foreclosed on that property, and he came and paid everything in cash. And I told him the agreement was that he needed to clean it up. Both Greg and I met with him, and he said, "You have my word."
She buried on it, but he didn't say when.
Okay. Okay,
I'm fine moving ahead with it.
Sherry,
Okay.
do you have a map and a lot for me?
I don't think so. I got it in the office.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So I'll make a motion to, start an 80K, action on Bradley York, 18 Hillcrest Drive. Map and lot will be forthcoming. That's my motion. Motion is second. Any public comment? All in favor? All right.
It's map 6, lot 60.
All right. Owen Charette, 10 Searles Mills Road, dangerous building.
Town manager, I met with him, was a week ago. Sat in my office, probably talked for half an hour about different things, and, at the time, we asked him to come up with a plan of what, he plans on doing with timelines and deadlines. At the time, I asked him for a structural engineer's report on that place down there, because, I mean, you look at it, and there's steel beams out from under it, so I don't really know what's holding it up.
So how did your conversation go?
I come in today and there was this in my box, read through it. This is what he's proposing. I took these pictures today too, so you have an idea what you're looking at. I think I gave you a copy, didn't I, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on this?
You know how long we've been dealing with this? I mean, if he held true to that plan, it would probably be okay. But how many times have we been through this?
2+ years.
Can we do an agreement through the courts to this timeline, so if it doesn't hold, that there's consequences, or there's repercussions, or there's...
So, you can basically, the way it would work is it wouldn't really be like an 80K, it would be a dangerous building in the Superior Court. And since the town's already, most of the way through the dangerous building process, it might be easier just to say, hold another hearing next month, finalize the dangerous building order, and then proceed with, establishing a timeline that way. If he doesn't comply with that, the town can go in and demo the building or do whatever it needs to do to stabilize it. And then the way the process works is you'd make a demand for payment for all the funds the town spent on this so far. If he doesn't pay that in 30 days, then you can assess a special tax, and then that could, that would be payable in the normal course as a regular tax. And if he doesn't pay it, the town can get the property. You can go to court in what they call a summary proceeding, and that's just where you're going to court and you're establishing the fact that it's dangerous, and then the court would make a dangerous building determination and maybe assess penalties and give him orders to comply with. But it's a question as to, what schedule the court would put him on. At that point, the town's kind of, ceding control over the schedule to the judge, and he might want a more generous timeline or a less generous timeline, but if he doesn't comply, the likely outcome is just gonna be that the court would authorize the town to go in and do the work itself and collect the expenses the same as it could otherwise. And then it's just a question really of whether we think he'd be more likely to comply with a court order as opposed to an order from the select board declaring the building dangerous. It's hard to say whether either would be more effective.
Okay.
But where we've already gone this far and provided the required notices, and there's, kind of a pending dangerous building action, it might make more sense to see if you comply with that rather than restart the whole process in Superior Court.
Okay.
So you pulled out the I-beam.
Yeah, so the I-beams was put so the whole house was supported off the I-beams. So we're sitting on a foundation all the way other than the north side.
Okay.
And I only got, I don't know, I think maybe 2 rows left, 2.5 rows left, and then the north side will be sitting on it. I do have cribbing inside with 20-ton jacks holding up the inside.
The
So
whole inside or the north side?
What's that?
The whole inside or the
I
north
got all
side?
kinds of cribbing inside with, jacks and, yeah, and everything else. So the I-beams was when I lifted it up, we could pull all the exterior walls out and hold the house up is what those steel beams was. So now, I mean, we've been sitting on the foundation, the edges, so that the steel beams ain't there to hold the whole house up, because the outside walls are all sitting on, yeah.
So what do you need to do to get the crib work out of there?
So I got to, finish laying down the north side.
Yep.
The 2 rows, the 3 rows, whatever it is. And then I got to do, pour some pads in and just do some, actual, supports that's going to, not be like lolly columns, actual solid supports that I can pull up, well, all the jacking stuff that's in the inside. Perfect.
So you think, so what is your thoughts when Greg asked you about a structural engineer to look at it?
Well, until I get all my jacking stuff out of there, it's still, yeah, it's gonna be a little hard to have somebody come and look at something until I at least get all my posts set in where they're supposed to be and everything else. So I mean, so that's pretty much where, once I get that stuff done, then I mean, everything's gonna be level, everything's gonna be done, all that stuff's gonna be cleaned out, it's just gonna be all. Because, lolly columns and stuff like that isn't, it's supposed to be fixed posts. So, it's not gonna pass through for that stuff.
Okay, so you got an April deadline, a May deadline, a June, a July, and an August. So August 31st, you think?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be before that. That's just to give time for a structural engineer to go through, do a walkthrough through the whole house, do a report.
Yep.
And for Greg to do a walkthrough for the house, and making sure that everything is done to health and safety codes.
Okay. Jake?
It's been a long time with this. It's an eyesore, I get it, it's fighting the weather, it's Maine, it ain't no fun. Every time I drive by this, I swear the middle of the house is settling even more and more. I just don't want you under this thing, this thing's gonna let go. Are those supports under even doing anything?
Oh yeah.
Like why is it going down then?
It's only that side that we've been working on.
The whole beam of the roof is like that, right in the middle of it. It's dropping more and more time I drive by there. I don't know, are those things settling, or is there anything underneath there holding this thing up? Like,
yeah, we got cribbing and jacks, so.
I don't know, I think it's gonna cave in, and I don't know, it's not safe. I'm worried for your safety, anybody else's safety, like, I don't know. And people drive by and it just doesn't look good. There's things everywhere, it's a mud hole. You know, it's just not doing yourself any favors. And there you are again, another summer of supposed things done, and I just don't see it happening. It's my opinion.
Sherry?
I'm very worried about the safety of that building. For you to be working in it. And I worry about this timeline that something's gonna happen and you're gonna get another hiccup and you're not gonna be successful.
Well, I'm there every day now, so, I mean, unless I have something, I go get parts or something, but I mean, I'm there basically every day, working day now. So I no longer have my business and I'm there basically every day.
I will say that when I was on my way to the Battle of the Bands, 6 o'clock on a Friday night, you were there and there was lights on inside. I don't know if you do that for her. So, all right, so where do we go from here?
In your hands, I give you what I give you. I think for the safety of all, and I talked to Olin about this the other day, have an engineer lay his eyes on it and say, you gotta do this, that, or whatever's good, gotta be done. Because if that does fall in and kill somebody, I'm not an engineer.
Nor any of us.
Right.
So,
I mean, the
And,
rest of it.
and at this point, if it does fall in, are we somewhat liable, because we have something, and we good?
The town should be fine. Private property, it's work being
But,
done
I
on
mean-
private property, and there's a disclaimer of liability and assumption of risk in the
Other than the
agreement that was
safety,
signed.
other than the safety of it, if he does everything like he says he's gonna do, probably alright, but.
But if we just do this verbal agreement, you have nothing to go back on, right?
We'll be right back there again, August, if he doesn't do it. You know what I mean, do it, you know, then we wouldn't have to.
The town and Mr. Shredden concluded that a first agreement back in, whatever it was, April of 2023, in which he, agreed to make improvements to the building. And that was all supposed to be done by January 1, 2024. The select boards, held off on declaring the building dangerous afterwards, after the expiration, or not expiration, but after his failure to comply with that agreement, just based on the work that he's done so far. But the town's not really under any obligation to continue to hold off on moving forward with the dangerous building process at this point. So it's really the select board's decision on whether they want to continue to let it go, ask him to enter into a new written agreement, or proceed with the dangerous building process.
Well, I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is that I'm okay with entering into this agreement that he's given us. He has done a lot of work to it. I'm only one voice, so, but that's my opinion. I would, and if, the thing with these agreements is, I'm probably the only selectman that's had your back as far as, working with you and trying to, but if these other two select people decide to go with this and it gets to August 31st and we're not, we're in the same boat as we have been in the other two agreements, for a better word, shit hits the fan, I guess, but again, I'm only one voice, whatever they want to do. So I'm looking to the two of you.
Your kids aren't there while you're working, are
Nope.
they? Okay.
Under the prior agreement, the building's supposed to be posted against occupancy, so it's not supposed to be occupied until all the work's completed. And there's no CO, so.
I mean, he's getting no trespassing signs up there, if I recall.
For me, this is it. I can't look at other townspeople and just say, this, for me, this would be your last agreement. This is your last chance. After that, we go, for my vote, is going to be dangerous building. And I know life happens and you have a house full and, times are tough, I get it. I get it, I live that life. And I want you to be successful and I want you to be part of our town. So, please, if you can't do the work, hire somebody to do it.
Yep.
We'll get it done by August 31st, please. Okay.
Jake?
I think it's a dangerous building, I'm just worried that, again, it's been years and it's just not getting anywhere, and to me, it's sagging and setting, and I just don't see these deadlines happening, unfortunately. That's where I stand with it.
All right, so I need a motion from somebody.
So,
Oh.
sorry, my recommendation would be if the board wants to set a hard deadline for August 31st completion, to require basically a new written agreement or amended agreement, basically saying that, he agrees to these timelines, and if work isn't completed by August 31st, and the board is able to just enter the attached dangerous building order without having to go through the process for, notice and conducting a whole hearing to take new evidence and stuff like that, just based on the board's current knowledge and understanding of the situation on the property.
Okay.
And that would just be in a form acceptable to the town manager.
So if the board agrees to that,
Yeah,
are you gonna agree to that?
yes.
Should be something, I think, in writing, more than statement.
Yeah.
Kim's gonna do it for us.
Yeah.
All right, before I hear a motion, do I have any public comment? Okay, I need a motion from somebody.
I will make a motion that we enter into a timeline with, Mr. Schreck, August 31st, 2025, to have a occupancy permit and engineer inspection for the 10 Searles Mills Road location.
So that's
And
a
if not, let the dangerous building proceedings start or continue.
Cam's gonna do an agreement, if I
So,
understand this correctly.
So
Is that right?
my understanding of the motion, and if this is correct, is that the board is authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with Mr. Charette,
Yes.
requiring him to comply with his proposed timelines for correcting the conditions on the property. And if he fails to do so, and the agreement should provide that if he fails to do so, the select board will enter a dangerous building order.
That's my motion. That's why you're here. You're so good at this.
I'll second her motion. One last chance, public comment? All in favor? All opposed? 2-1. All right, you good?
Yep,
Okay,
thank you.
Do you wanna know how we go?
I will. Joel, I'm gonna put you on the back burner, just,
That's fine,
okay?
thank you.
We're gonna, skip down to Mr. Howard Tuttle with a presentation of the RSU budget.
You want me to do ordinance? You want me to do ordinance stuff for Treader's friend?
Oh, no, stay, you can stay, yes.
You all set with me?
Yes.
I agree.
All right, yeah, start, 10 minutes? All right, I'm doing 10 minutes.
Ready, set, go.
All right, it took me an hour last night at Whitefield, so I'm doing it in 10 minutes, which means I'm skipping some things, okay? So you got your handout, you can read it whenever you want to. I'm on page 2 already, and I just want to make sure everybody knows there's a district budget meeting on May 21st at Chelsea. And that's where we really encourage voters to be there. It's kind of like the RSU 12 town meeting. The more the better, and that's where the budget is decided. That's where voters get to vote up or down, the 11 cost centers. After that, in June, there's a referendum where you vote on whatever was decided on May 21st. So May 21st is an important date. Please be there. Let your thoughts be known. Page 3, this presentation is, we're on the road, we're going to every town, presenting the information. It's really early in the budget process right now, believe it or not. And so what I'm telling you tonight is really rough, but trying to give you an idea of where we're headed. There's a lot of unanswered questions right now. We're negotiating with the teachers. We don't know health insurance rates. People who declare retirement have till March 30th to tell us. We're finding out about special ed kids that are moving into the district. All those things are happening, but we will know by April. The board will approve the recommended budget on April 10th. So if anyone wants to see the final version, that would be a good time, but you know, Christine, reach out anytime. I'll give you updates on where we're at. All right, so, and you can attend any one of these meetings in any of these towns if you're interested as we progress. All right, page, skipping a lot here. We'll just get into the stuff people really want to know. Page 6. Just to know, finding efficiencies in a school budget is more challenging than you expect. Most of the budget is people, teachers, staff. Page 6 shows you all the work the board has done over the years to create savings that are in this budget year after year, and there's some new ones in this budget this year. We started a solar power purchase agreement back in 2018, I think it was, or 19. Whenever those things became available, there was a pause because of COVID or whatever, but the investor wanted to start it up again, so we're part of a solar field that saves us $28,000 a year in electricity costs. The board did vote to accept 2 free electric buses from the last administration. They work fine. I know there's in the news, so their districts are having trouble. They're on the road, they work fine. They're in Windsor because Windsor had enough parking. But the fuel savings is going to be about $10,000 per bus in savings. So we've got about $20,000 in fuel savings for those buses. Lastly, we've got the nutrition program functioning efficiently, and last year you may have noticed we don't charge anymore for the nutrition program. We zeroed it out. Seems to be going fine, so that's saving $50,000 a year. So a lot of hard work with all that.
What did you eliminate, Howard?
Would we eliminate?
Yeah. Did you look on that nutrition program?
We didn't eliminate, we hired somebody to be in charge of it. Yeah, and so he's able to write grants, he's able to, use staff more efficiently, he's able to go out and get free food and local farmers, and so there's any number of things, and it doesn't operate as part of the school system, it's its own entity, and it's meant to pay for itself with federal reimbursement. But the federal reimbursement doesn't cover, staff salaries, staff health insurance, and so you got to get pretty clever and creative with your food buying and your menu and all that stuff. So essentially, that's what happened. Is even though his salary costs some money, it ended up, when you put someone in charge that knows what they're doing, you end up saving money. So that's why we're not needing to charge that $50,000. The $50,000 was to keep it whole. Let's see. Page 7. I just wanted to highlight number 1 that we did apply for the CLC grants. It's an after-school program with tutoring. We had 5 years of it, and we applied last spring with the Boys and Girls Club, and we got another 5 years of it, so that program at Chelsea will continue. It's very popular. It's free to parents, so that's at Chelsea and Whitefield. And then, just so you know, we have a bus driver shortage in Maine, across the country. It's affecting us, so we're proactive. We started a bus driver course here at Chelsea, if anyone's interested. It's full now, but we'll keep offering it. Try and get more people driving buses. So, here. All right, page 8 is just the student count. We're trending down a bit. My graph makes it look worse than it is, because I don't really start at 0. But the trend is down. It hasn't picked back, but we were trending up, and then COVID hit. Now we're trending down. We'll see. Might trend back up again. I don't know what causes it to go up and down. State of Maine student counts are down generally. We had been bucking the trend there for a while, but now we're going down as well. Page 9 is the Chelsea student count. That's pre-K to 12, also going down a bit. There's a mistake on page 9. It says Whitefield in the very corner. That's wrong. This is Chelsea. I got 3 minutes. I haven't gotten to the good stuff. Page 10 is, this is the important stuff. So we've got what I would call a problem, and that is that, and maybe you understand, I say this every year, but now it's actually pretty extreme. The valuation, your property valuation, according to the state, has gone up about 20% in 1 year. So I don't know what you're doing here. But hopefully that helps with your tax base, because when the state sees that, they take away subsidy. And so to the taxpayers, it looks like an increase. Meanwhile, maybe, I'm assuming there's more revenue coming in. So hopefully that makes sense. But I don't have all the numbers yet, but you're shaking your head like you know your valuation has gone up. And they look at, I believe, home sales, and that's how they figure out valuation. I'm sure you figure it out differently. It has nothing to do with if you recently did an assessment or whatever. That it's not the fault of that. But anyway, so this is a 3-year rolling average. It says Chelsea's now worth $244 million, and you go back 6 years and you're $160 million. So that's I mean, I don't know too many towns that have changed so dramatically, and so you will see a drop in your subsidy, regardless of what we do in terms of the board in terms of costs, and this is a revenue thing. So prepare for that. It doesn't mean people's taxes are going to go up. It just means maybe you've got more property, more valuation according to the state. I don't know. We can maybe talk over the phone, trying to figure out what's going on. Haven't seen anything like it. It's even Windsor with with all their CMP stuff didn't go up as dramatically as you have. So page 11 is a statement about what a school board can control in this district and what they can't. Because I know nobody wants their taxes going up. I don't want your taxes going up. We try to provide a good education to the kids that isn't a burden on taxpayers, but there's some uncontrollable things in this budget that are becoming a bit of a problem. So first of all, the number one, the blue, that's what the board can control. So we can control negotiating with staff, the benefits to some degree, energy, transportation, capital improvements. We can make choices about that. What we can't control is high school tuition. High school tuition has gone up 10%. And they also increased what's called the insured value factor, which is going to add about $400,000 to this budget. And it's nothing, unless we want to make some new legislation next year and go fight this, we don't have a high school. We just have to pay the bill. 10 minutes is up. The other, we've also, right now, this could change. We've got apparently a bunch of students coming in, 7 of them district-wide, with severe disabilities that we are going to need to educate, and that costs a lot of money. So that's on there right now. That could change. We get creative on trying to save money, but I just heard about this last week, so it could be an increase. Number 4 is also uncontrollable.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Those 7.
Yep.
They're coming here.
Not necessarily.
No.
No. Actually, here is pretty full, is the problem. So then we look to outside placements that are very expensive. We are starting a program at Whitefield to deal with these. We've had quite an influx this year, and apparently next year, this has happened before, where people say they're going to move here, and then they change their mind. So, we'll see what happens, but I'm just trying to make the case that there isn't a whole lot the school board can do. We have to educate all students, and so one of them may end up at Chelsea, but the Chelsea program, which is a district program, is full at this point.
So hypothetically, if all 7, let's say, went to Whitefield, that's not Whitefield's burden, that's the RSU's burden.
Yeah,
is that correct?
We share the burden.
Okay.
Yep. And so the last one on this list, the uncontrollable, we already talked about the subsidy problem. So district-wide, we've seen property valuations go up more than the state of Maine. So people seem to like the Sheepscott Valley for whatever reason. And so that creates a subsidy issue district-wide, and it's a little more intense at Chelsea, Whitefield, and Alma. Don't know why. And then the last one that is uncontrollable is that we just seem to be having outside forces with all kinds of legislation that is costing us money. So it's the Paid Family Medical Leave Act, it's the minimum salary for education support staff. I don't know if you caught that law that passed last spring. All these things are now coming in to cause, I mean, the board can't do anything about it. That we have to pay paid FMLA and things like that. And now, I don't know what will happen with the federal funding, but we hear talk of, you know, federal funding being reduced or
The 1% that the state's now charging, is the district paying for that, or the employees paying for it?
half and half. Yeah.
If you recall, I had asked you about the employees.
All right, I'm a little over, sorry. Number 12 you can skip. That's the legislation I was talking about that are causing costs to go up, and we don't have much say in the matter. Page 13, that's where your students are going at the high school level. You know, the board is having conversations about how we can reduce high school costs. So while we have been pretty efficient, pre-K to 8, I mean, we've been working to get 1 to 2% increases since I've been here. High school has not. The high school tuition, which is based on the Maine state average, you know, it's usually 4% increase a year. The last 3 years, it's been 6% every year. And now we're adding in this IVF. So I probably sound like a whiner, but there's not. It's I'd like the taxpayers to realize what the school board's up against when we present a budget. Page 14 is the subsidy situation, and you can kind of see over the last couple of years, it really has not increased. It's been pretty flat, mostly because our property valuations as a whole just keep going up. I went back in time to like 2012, 2013. Property valuations were going up about 1%. Like nothing big was changing. The last three years, it's been 8, 9, and now, what did I say? Chelsea was like 15 or 20. I mean, things are changing. Demographics are changing, I guess. So our subsidy ends up being flat. So page 16 right now, again, very, very preliminary. This isn't what you will pay, obviously. This is the whole budget. The cost side of things is up 6.7%. Most of that is high school tuition. And you can see our state subsidy, we got an additional $64,000, which is it's peanuts, really. But normally we get, in other times, we get about $400,000 additional. Page 16 shows you our cost centers that you vote on May 21st. And the big one is number 1, regular instruction. And that is up $642,000. And I broke it out because I wanted to highlight, why is it up $642,000? It's up $642,000 because high school tuition is up $768,000, whereas pre-K to 8 is down $126,000. So the part that the board can control is actually going to be down. And most of that is due to retirements and elimination of positions and just trying to be efficient. We have a problem in special ed that we're working on, and again, this has to do with the students that are coming to us and we need to educate. So we're trying to problem solve and figure out how to do it as cost effectively as possible. And the rest of them are not too newsworthy. The number 10 is newsworthy. That's number 9 and 10. So number 9 would be the savings in electricity because of the solar field, and then number 10 is we paid off the Windsor school, so we don't have to budget for the payment. So the only school we're still paying for is Chelsea. And number 17 shows that your central office is the cheapest around in terms of per student spending compared to other districts. Page 18 is the revenue situation. With that part probably won't change very much because mostly state subsidy. Page 19, this is a test slide, and this is my last one. I don't know if this is useful. Last night when I explained to Whitefield the property valuation problem and how it's connected to your subsidy, they were really confused. So this is my attempt at a tutorial. So here we go. The red, this is how it's calculated, the subsidy from the state. Step 1, they calculate the minimum it should cost to educate students. And we've got a number there, 19.3 million. They calculate that. Then they look at what percentage of students do you have. So this town of Chelsea example, you have about 25% of the students. So they say that according to the EPS formula, the state should be giving you 4.9 million. But then they look at your property valuation and decide if you really should get that 4.9 million. So if you're a place like Falmouth, you don't get any of the 4.9 million, you need to pay the whole bill. In Chelsea, you've typically only paid 25% of that bill. The state had typically given you 75% of it. Now you're down to about 50-50 over the years. And so the town valuation, which is circled in red, if that number goes up, they multiply it by the mill expectation, which has nothing to do with your mill rate, it's something that they said at the state. If that number goes up, you can see that your required contribution goes up. That's in step 2. And then in step 3, they take that required contribution, they subtract it from what they think it should cost to educate kids, and you're left with your state subsidy. So if the red one goes up, the yellow one goes down. How's that for a tutorial?
Very nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Any questions? Yes. Yeah.
So you're saying you're saving $20,000 on fuel costs, what's it costing you to charge those buses? And or repairs versus a diesel?
We haven't had it long enough for repairs, so I can tell you what people say will happen, but I'll wait till it happens. The bus, to charge it for the year will be about $2,000. The diesel will be about $12,000. And so we've had them for 3 months, so that's how we can estimate what that will be.
And we have a really low kilowatt.
But we're only paying 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So that's why.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah.
So Sandra Devaney, Palermo board member and also board chair. Just to kind of explain real quick, if the town's valuation at the state level goes up, the state says we don't need to give that town as much money because they're getting in $20, $25, $30,000 more than they were last year from home sales. So those homes are worth more, so they're getting more taxes in. Also, if your student count, which I don't see that in here, but as we get more into the budget, if your student count also goes down, then the state says, well, you have less students, you're getting in more money from the valuation of your properties, so therefore we don't have to give you as much money for subsidy. So that's kind of the piece with that. The other piece real quick too, the insured value for the high school, we got hit with a really big bill from Erskine Academy, stating that going back 7 years or so, that because we send kids there, we need to pay a portion of their capital improvements to keep up with their building and the facilities and the grounds. And they sent us a letter saying that due to this error that they found, that the RSU owes them 7 years worth of capital improvement costs that the campus really needs. And so that also is a factor that is increasing this budget, as well as the fact that the high school tuition at Erskine is quite a bit more than, say, Coney. And we have no control over that at all. Erskine says this is what we're gonna charge, because they're allowed to charge X amount over what the regular state minimum is. And because Chelsea has 54 kids that go there, it's making quite a big of a jump, because it's the high school that most of the kids are going to, so that's my 2 cents.
How does that work? Like tuition wise, how does, like, if the Chelsea parent wants to send their kid to Erskine, how do you get them back to paying tuition? When I went there, I had to pay tuition. Would that help offset it quite a bit, or?
It would, but.
Why can't we do that? I mean, I
Uh,
get it,
we have
Erskine's
school-
10 times the high school as Coney,
We have school choice,
right,
so if you have a Chelsea kid who wants to go to Erskine, you have to pay what Erskine is charging. They wanna go to Coney, you have to pay what Coney is charging. Now, if you have a kid from Gardner who wants to go to Erskine, they have to pay above and beyond the
Right.
state minimum, if I'm correct, whatever.
Right.
It's different, so we, because one of the foundations of RSU 12 is high school choice, we have to pay for them and we have to pay whatever Erskine is charging. So if Coney says, we're gonna charge you 13,000, what is Coney charging now?
Coney's only 11 right now.
Coney's charging 11, Erskine is what, 16 or 17?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about $6,000 more per kid for them to go to Erskine, as well as the capital, the payments that the RSU has to pay towards their capital improvements, because they're saying, hey, you're sending this many kids to the district, so you need to share in the amount of money that gets used for
The
that.
board could make a policy
Well,
where
how
we
does
said the
that work?
parents,
right.
the parents need to, if you wanna go to Erskine, parents need to pay.
Does that go through a vote or for you guys' decision as a board?
It would, it's a very good question. It would be a huge shift and it would affect every town.
Right.
When, Chelsea used to do that,
Right,
Alney
I
used to
do,
do that.
54
Windsor,
kid times 6,000.
Windsor and Palermo never did that.
Right.
So it would be a huge, change for folks. The board has discussed it, especially because these costs just keep going up.
Right.
Is that
54 kids
something that-
times 6,000 is a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
Is that something that could be a district vote as
As a
opposed
town
to a school
resident,
board
can I
vote?
speak?
Go ahead.
Part of it was when the RSU was formed, Jake. Way back, Rick can comment on that too. Part of it was when the RSU was formed, we agreed to absorb some of those costs. Some of the parents do still, I remember when my kid did it, I paid, I think it was $2 a day for him to ride the bus to Erskine, so we did come ourselves. Not sure where the 16,000 came from, because I just did quick math. Coney's about 11.7 a year, Erskine at 54 students at 805,000 is 14.9. RSU 2 is 14.8, so Erskine's not that much more.
It's the, IBF, so
Insured value.
add the
Right,
10,
but I'm just, right, so
10, so
that,
it's
just
15.5.
15, so, and then like RSU 2 is not that, so when you start factoring that, some of that in, Erskine's not that much more than some of the other ones. And the other thing too, when we formed the RSU, a lot of the high schools around that we asked to sign contracts with said no and wouldn't dance with us. Erskine was still one of, and Erskine also agreed to start taking some of our special ed students when some of the other ones were giving us a really hard time about it. So there's some history on that piece and how that did come about. We did talk about asking parents to pay, if I remember correctly, because the woman yelled at me pretty hard, $2,000 a year extra for their child to go to Erskine. The mom yelled at me and said she couldn't afford it, so I told her not to get her nails done or go to Dunkin' Donuts, and that didn't go over well. But it was literally, we talked about just a $2,000 a year per, if you wanted your, like 10 kids, there's 20,000.
It definitely should be reassessed, I think.
Right, that was something we did discuss way back then, and it's come up more than a few times.
I'm on the finance committee, and we're discussing, this was late breaking news yesterday. I'm trying to come up with incentive programs to steer kids to other high schools. Also too, when I first started on the board, I floated the idea of all the money we're spending for high school tuition, let's get our own high school. That's not gonna fly in this district. Everybody wants school choice, but it costs, and that's why we're highlighting it this way. So we are doing things to kind of push things over. The extra money that was supposedly paid all those years, we're talking about that, so it may or may not hit this budget. Right. But the whole thing is, and you know, I've been trying to work on getting a level playing field on all these budgets. It is amazing on how little there is to control, because the state mandates everything, but doesn't pay the fair share. Right. Talk about fair share. Oh my goodness. They don't pay the fair share. So we'll have more numbers, you know, later on in the month, but this is just where we're at right now.
Andy?
Is Erskine still classified as a private school?
They are private, well, they're private when they wanna be private, they're public when they wanna be public, they're called a 60/40.
So I guess my question as a resident, why are we responsible to put in for capital improvements for a private entity that we're already paying for contracted service?
My understanding of the logic, and it actually started in the 90s, that particular law, and it wasn't 10% in the 90s, it's gone up. So those 60/40 schools, which is, there's like 10 of them in the state, they lobbied, they said, wow, we're kind of a public school, and the state gives money, so like the state paid for the building of the new Chelsea school. They lobbied and said, that doesn't seem fair, we need some money. And so the law's been there since the 90s. It's just become suddenly very expensive because it's 10% on top of a very expensive bill. And so, you know, I would suggest that we do get some new legislation going, you know, next fall, because it's not affordable. And the logic, I'm not sure applies either, so. Well, thank you, and please watch the process and come to our meetings.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm not gonna stick around.
Yeah. All right, Joel.
How you doing this evening?
How are you?
No, I'm good, sir. I can't complain.
Review the proposed junkyard ordinance.
Yeah, nobody listens, right? Yes, so, last, I don't know, almost June, we put in a moratorium for junkyards, so that we could come up with our own, in addition to state law, or revamp the one we had, rather. Kind of make some things, some changes to not necessarily discourage, but kind of control what type of junkyards we have, and add at least some layers of protections. So we looked at several, and we found one that we liked from the town of Whiting. We thought we had everything listed, so Attorney Ferrante got a hold of it. And then sent it back, slightly edited.
Reorganized.
Yeah, reorganized is a nice way of putting it. No, but in the end, we ended up with a very good product. So one of the things that we did, we discussed limits of junkyards and things like that. The board felt that we really didn't want to limit junkyards or recycling facilities in the sense that necessarily placing limits. But what we did do is we placed some very heavy buffers on things. So you wouldn't be able to have a junkyard on a 2 or 3 acre parcel of land. You probably would, I think, would probably need a minimum of, I would dare say, 6 to 8 acres if you're going to have an actual junkyard. It adds some pretty massive buffers for public buildings, schools, 200-foot buffer to neighbors. You know, puts in screening so that the junk has to be screened from all view all the way around. We mirrored the state law in regards to renewals. The existing junkyards can obviously still exist, they just would be non-conforming. If they want to change or upgrade or do something different, then they would have to meet the new provisions of this ordinance. The biggest change in this is that traditionally what has happened is that all junkyard plans have come directly to the select board. What this does is it adds a layer before you. So this adds a full-blown planning board review, site review, the whole 9 yards to this whole process prior to it coming to the select board for review. So once the planning board approves it, then it comes to the select board for the final approval.
When was the last time this ordinance was updated? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. but it's probably been 20 years or so at a minimum, I'm gonna guess.
I wanna say 2003, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Let's see, we put in a fairly, again, healthy set of performance standards. Didn't really allow for the stacking of cars upon cars upon cars. I mean, it's all transfer, you know, the permit can only be transferred if the select board and planning board approve it. The only thing I think I'm kind of questioning now looking back through this, and I'm not sure that we want to do that, but I think it's easy enough to take out, would be taking the fees out of the ordinance and just making them as set by the select board. Because I really strongly feel we don't want to have fees put in ordinances, we want to have them set aside as a fee schedule. But I think with some minor revisions, we can take those out and just put them on a fee schedule. So, because every time, we don't want to have a town meeting every time we want to adjust fees. So I think that's just reading back through this again for the 50th time, I think we want to change that. Enforcement, I mean, it's all standard stuff. Appeals, it's all standard stuff. Most of the rest of it's all standard things. So that's what we did with it. Happy to go through it in its entirety if you want, or answer any specific questions that you may have.
So this update, or this revision, the 27 junkyards we have already in town will not have to, I'm just joking.
I understand.
You're deer in the headlight look there.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
So they will not have to adhere to any of these changes.
If they're a current licensed junkyard, as long as they are currently existing, they can currently still do that. If somebody was to sell one of those junkyards and try to transfer that license, they would have to either meet this ordinance or get pre-approval to do that. They can't just they can't do that. Yeah, they can't just sell it to somebody else. They can stay non-conforming forever.
I don't think we have more than 3 licensed, if memory serves me correctly. There's not a
We came up with 4,
okay.
I think, but you could be right and I could be wrong. It's entirely possible. So we have a lot more than 4 junkyards. But this, so we talked about limits to death, and really when the dust all settled, we looked at the performance standard and said the realistic piece of this is that anybody who's going to follow these rules is going to do it and do it right. And the setbacks are going to require that you have the correct amount of land to do a junkyard and do it right. It's going to solve all the 1 or 2 or 3 acre junkyards where everybody puts 30 cars on an acre of land or 2 acres of land.
So you've kinda, and I'm fine with it. But if I'm reading between the lines, you've kinda made it difficult for somebody to come in and you don't have to answer that. Which I get it, and I'm fine with it.
I mean, you still pull a junkyard.
Sure you can.
There's still some that would make the cut.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is that, and again,
It's a real deal. It's not just a.
Right.
It
Like,
separates it.
a 200-foot buffer is nothing to sneeze at. That's a pretty healthy buffer. But I think even if you took our solar ordinance for even solar farms, we have a 100-foot buffer, maybe even more than that off the top of my head for solar. So why wouldn't we have more than that for a junkyard?
You mentioned netting.
Like a screen fence or something like that.
The whole perimeter.
If it isn't buffered by like natural beauty.
Yep.
Trees, shrubs, all that stuff.
Just standing there, that's the beauty.
Well, you're gonna be that way.
So I love coming to these meetings.
So the way it's drafted with respect to the fencing and the screening right now is that basically the area where like the operation's actually gonna occur is screened. If they have like, a small outbuilding with an office, like that doesn't have to be screened off, like that can be viewed from the road, but everything else has to be surrounded by the adequate screening so that you can't see the operation itself going on with the stacked cars and the parts cars and stuff.
Okay, so the screening is not the same material like you see a tractor trailer going down the road with 25 crushed cars on it, and there's a net over that.
No, that is
That's not what you're talking
No,
about.
that's not. We're talking
This is a
about.
non-seat, you can't see through this screen.
Correct. You're right, right, it's a buffer,
Okay.
if you will.
Okay.
So like on the sides, let's just say they had 200 feet of woods and it buffered appropriately the junkyard or the operations, and they wouldn't need to put that fence all the way around the property.
It's screened to ordinary view, basically, so it could be a fence, it could be plantings, it could be something else, but yeah.
Does that state that in this?
Mm-hmm.
It does, okay.
And then just with respect to the, like, non-conforming use, like the grandfather junkyards and stuff, they still have to come in for their permits under state law and under the ordinance. They'd be allowed to basically continue their operation, but the select board have the discretion to impose, like, try to do what it can to bring them into compliance with this. You're not gonna be able to say, congratulations, you're now subject to a 200-foot setback, but you are gonna be able to say, you know, the hours of operation apply to you, the requirements for, you know, proper draining of fluids and things like that apply to you, as they would under state law, but now they're, you know, actually articulated in the ordinance.
Right.
So if this passes, if the townspeople pass this,
Mm-hmm.
should and will, when the junkyards that are already in place in town, when they renew every year, will they be getting a copy of this? And is there gonna be some language from us that gives them a heads up here? These are the new ordinances, doesn't apply to you, but if you're thinking of, you know, doing anything, selling or whatever,
That's
I mean,
something
should we do?
We should do that from an administrative point,
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, put it in when, but that's.
Put it
we
in with their
didn't do
application
this
and-
with the intent of doing that, no.
No, but I
It
think
would
it's, on our end.
It would be the right thing to
The
do,
due
sure.
diligence of, at least they know, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when they come in with their new application, not new, but renewal.
Yep.
You know, they get this, hey, please read this when you get a chance.
Right.
It could affect you down the road some.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, and I think this ordinance is pretty solid. You know, does it fix everything? Probably not, but I don't know the way to do that, so.
I think it's pretty good.
I think it's pretty solid. It fixes 98.5% of our problems that we're looking to fix. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I should,
Sure.
sorry, the only thing I want to talk about in addition to the fees, including in the ordinance, there's a little bit of wiggle room in there for the select board to impose additional fees, but I have no problem taking it out. It makes sense to take it out of the ordinance.
I would really prefer that they were out if we can.
The only other thing I kind of wanted to take the select board's temperature on is the enforcement and the appeals provision. So as it is right now, and this is, you know, just my own probably error, but it gives the right to appeal an enforcement decision, like a notice of violation, to the Superior Court on like page, whatever, section 13(2). And the town doesn't have to allow that. Under like state law, you can just treat notices of violation as basically advisory, and then the time for someone to contest it or to, you know, say, I don't deserve this, is when the town opts to take them to court in an 80K action. So you can give them the right to appeal the code enforcement officer's decision, or you can just leave it as advisory and say it's not appealable, basically. So it's a question of whether the town actually wants to provide someone with an avenue for appeal there to take the town to court, or if you just want to leave it be until the town decides to take them to court, and then that's their opportunity to say, you know, this shouldn't have issued in the first place. It just gives the town a little bit more control when it goes to court. You'd basically just be,
I'm all for giving the town more control over it, if you want my opinion.
so,
Do we have a full appeals board?
No.
We do not.
working on it.
We had to throw one together the last time we needed something. We were scrambling.
How many do we need?
4, right?
No, I think it's 5.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
And how many do we have?
None right now.
It was a one-time deal.
Once a point.
Let me see. 1, 2, 3.
It takes congratulations.
Right.
Pressing. So you'd just be taking out basically that first sentence of that section, and that's an easy thing to do. I mean, Probably makes sense.
Sherry? Any? Okay, any public comment? Yes, sir.
I've got a question. I have neighbors bring scrap metal over to my house and drop it in my yard because I get a one-ton load of scrap metal and I take it in, there's a little extra cash for gas. Am I considered a junkyard according to the definition of this? I don't store it for months upon end, and it's just until I get a dump truck load worthy of taking in.
Is anybody complaining about it?
I don't hear any complaints, but.
Neither do I.
I mean, I do the same thing.
Like, I do the same thing, but that's not what we're really targeting. What we're targeting is the so if you, I'm assuming you've been here for the whole meeting. So,
oh,
yeah, so like, there's some, like, there's just some housekeeping things with people with 15 or 20 junk cars and just, you know, some stuff that we need to clean up in town.
Yeah, and there's an exception in here for temporary storage of materials for up to 90 days. So if you're just grabbing stuff and holding it and then disposing of it every couple months, that should
provided, I guess it's not excessive, it should be all right, right?
Yeah, no, I probably go there 4 times a year, 5 times a year.
Yeah.
When I get truckload.
I've got my own spare metal pile too that I get rid of every.
I mean, you see it on the side of the road everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You know, these signs where scrap metal, I mean, and people drop it off and.
Yeah. I mean, Greg's not out there policing tiny little scrap metal piles. He's out there, he's not wasting his time on that stuff.
Any other public comment? Okay, so this is the first reading, or the first draft.
Mm-hmm. Then we got a couple changes to make to it, just in the fees, and then that, I'm assuming you guys wanna give the town more control, not less.
Makes sense, right?
Does to me.
We'll have the public hearing in May to go to town meeting in June.
Do I have like 1 more minute?
Of course you do.
Okay, so hopefully by the May, and hopefully by your next meeting, and hopefully before we'll have the subdivision minor. My goal is to really have that before town meeting too. So we took Arundel's, took a bunch of stuff out of it that really didn't apply. Took a town that we knew would have had some fairly decent oversight to it. Took a bunch of stuff out of it, made a few changes. I hope to have that back, have it for our first attorney review draft for the next planning board meeting, and then hopefully to you guys by the April meeting is my goal.
Yep.
So we're turning and burning.
Getting stuff done, I like it.
So,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, if you don't need me, I'm gonna head out.
Yep,
Have a
good.
good night.
All right, thank you.
New business, appointments to the budget committee. Mr. Grady, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Cook, and Mrs. Condon. And these are, if they're appointed, they're all for 1 year,
1 year expiring on June 30th of this year,
June
correct?
30th.
Not for 1 year from today.
A couple of these, we probably ought to have a background check on.
I was wondering when they got
that. So I'll make a motion to appoint Scott Grady, Stephen McDonald, Andrew Cook, and Tanya Condon to the budget committee effective until the end of June 30th of 2025.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on those hoodlums? All in favor? Welcome aboard. Andy, I didn't recognize you. I apologize.
God's all good, man.
We go way back. Discussion, who should we, no skipping, they left, right? Okay. Number 7, discussion of an intern for the summer of 2025.
As you know, it's been standard practice here for a few years to have an intern. I'm a huge advocate for that. 1, to incentivize municipal government careers, and then 2, to help a college student learn something about their local government. The deadline has since passed, but I talked to the Margaret Chase Smith Policy Institute. I have connections there, and they said that we can still submit. They haven't to start matching up interns. So my request to this board is considering approving of an intern for this summer. I know it's in the budget that you're going to be presented, however, if you commit tonight, you have to leave it in, because I signed a form stating we will fund an intern for the summer. The project that I was envisioning for this intern would be a huge research project to work again on the roads for, I guess, producing a binder that details every single road in town as far as when it was adopted, what any insight it was with the history, how many rods wide it is, because we all know roads kind of do this depending on when they were adopted. This would alleviate a lot of the question, is it in the road right away? How many rods wide is it? We don't know. It's gonna take going through history books, going to the DOT. It's quite a big project, quite a big
I
project.
thought the state doesn't do roads on like town roads or something.
The state is not going to take care of your local roads.
Right.
They're only gonna take care of their state roads as far as defining
Well, I know that,
roads.
but I thought there was something down the line that of finding boundary lines and whatnot wasn't gonna, I don't know, maybe I was wrong. I thought there was something somewhere saying you couldn't legally do something with roads and, I don't know, sort of somewhere or something like that.
I'm not sure.
I think every road, I mean, even
Well,
dating
they
back
are.
100, 150 years, is classified as rods.
Yeah. It's 10 feet to a rod, right?
3.2 something, yes.
And I converse with Kane Coffin a lot, and he's very knowledgeable when it comes to all the roads throughout this general area. And he complains all the time about the variance in you could go 200 feet up a road and it's 3 rods, let's say, and you go another 200 feet and it's 2.5 rods.
Right.
So it's very, I mean,
16, I think.
do,
It is 16.
Yes. Yards is what.
so I guess my question is, it's too bad we didn't have, what was her name from a couple of years ago?
Anna.
Anna. Although her work 2 years ago was very
Yes.
extensive.
Anna's making her mark on the hill in DC. We did our job.
Do we have a problem with classifying these roads as is it needed? In other words, do we have people coming to the town and are they having issues because we don't know what rods, how many rods this road is? What is it gonna benefit?
Well, I will tell you the quickest example that I can give is trees on people's lawns. Oh, is that in the road right away? That's 10 feet,
Yeah.
but we know we moved the road. Are we gonna pay $1,500 to have that tree cut down because it's in our road right away? I did attend a gravel roads class last week, and I can't tell you how many municipalities say they have just a little index box. They go in, they say, oh, Hollowell Road, from this box to this box, 3 rods wide, made of such and such material. And it's quick, it's easy, the clerks can get it, and everybody has the answers.
Actually, now that you say it like that, that would be nice to know.
For example, like even Litchfield, you drive the Litchfield roads, all their shoulders are ditched right to the line. There's no trees, there's nothing. The roads are clear, and it's definitely noticeable. Huge difference. And the roads get full sunlight; they don't get no shade.
Sherry,
I think it's worth it.
public
We may not even get a match. We
Right.
have to put in our description of what we want them to do.
Yeah.
But
public comment on that?
I would just look at building on what the work was done already, it kind of
Yes.
builds the profile. And
absolutely.
then you'll have one place, one-stop shop.
And
for
yeah,
the roads.
we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Have one spot in the town office of, if you need something with roads, here it is. This is the section it's gonna be
How
in.
many times we say, didn't we just do that 3 years ago and it turned out to be 15?
Is that thing updated pretty good, the thing that Anna did, are we updating that?
So there's only been 1 year, and that was last year's summer
Yeah.
things to put in the history of what we
Yeah.
paid, and then we'll add this summer
Right,
on,
yeah,
so, yes.
ditching, all that's already included on that?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
Good, just make sure.
Who enters that stuff?
Turn my head around.
Oh, okay. Any other public comment? I guess I'm all right with it.
I'm good with this.
Jade?
I mean, it's beneficial, it's a decent amount of money, but it's, as long as we get that's what it is, and our goal down the road is to, you know, clean up what we own in the right of way, and it's beneficial, and I'm fine with that, as long as we keep it that way. And if we're just gonna do it for the sake of doing it, then no, but if it's gonna be down the road of ditching to the lines and cutting the trees to the lines and keeping things cleaner, then I'm definitely in favor for it.
Well, then it helps the boards
Right.
10, 20, 30 years down the road as well as the road commissioner. You know, we deal with it in the wintertime. A resident will call in when the plow guy harrowed up his lawn, and it technically is in the town's right of way.
Right.
So, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
So,
But the town don't clean it either, so.
you need a motion?
I don't, it would just be your blessing for me to do a submission, but I have to sign the form stating if they find a match, we have to fund it.
I'm fine. I think we're all fine. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Signed a quitclaim deed for 80 Smith Road.
Mike left.
Yep.
I thought he was gonna stay for this. He is the current owner of 80 Smith Road. He is in the process of selling it. It is under contract. In that title search, it came across the desk of the closing agent that there was a tax lien from 2003 that was never released. So our computer system only goes back to 2004, so we're assuming that it's paid. They do need this release signed in order to be able to move forward with the sale of this property.
How much was it?
Yes, it wasn't much, it's right in that lien.
So you need a motion for that?
Correct.
So I'll make a motion to sign the quitclaim deed for 80 Smith Road, to release a lien dated back from 2003. Motion is second. Any public comment? All in favor?
Thank you.
Consider, review, and possibly approve dispatch contract.
This is a basic housekeeping issue. Every 2 years, you do receive an agreement from RCC, I call it RCC, PSAP, Dispatch Service. The amount they go up, I believe, $800 this year, and next year, if memory serves me correctly, $1,600. You're gonna have dispatch.
You don't do that too?
I don't wanna do that too. It used to be, you were probably way too little, but you used to
come
call
on.
the local number and somebody always stayed home and dispatched out, but not anymore.
So I'll make a motion for the town to approve a dispatch contract with RCC for the fiscal year of 2026.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any public comment? All in favor? Item 11, presentation of the proposed 2026 budget, and you have 10 minutes.
Well.
That's all I'm staying for. This is my 4th meeting this week.
Oh.
School's busy.
Yeah, all right.
And one tomorrow, yeah.
So I first have to welcome all of our new budget committee members. They do have books as of this evening. But I do also, with that welcome, give my apologies because I set up my big screen and had my computer ready to go, and the light bulb is blown in the projector. That's lack of preparation on my part. I probably should have checked it last week. So you don't have a presentation on the big screen, but I'm more than willing to send it to you in an email. Is that slide for me?
Better off buying a new projector. Probably a replacement bulb's gonna cost more than a new projector.
I actually said that to them. I'm
They
like,
are.
this
Trust
is
me.
going in the trash.
Yes.
It's the old screw in instead of, you know. So I will quickly review this because the budget committee's gonna meet in a couple of weeks and you're gonna review it at your next meeting to start the recommendations for annual town meeting.
So I would suggest that you kind of do like how we did, is skip the boilerplate stuff and go to, that's what we used to
I'm
say,
going line by
meat,
line,
potatoes.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I was hired to do.
So,
Okay. I'm gonna remind you like Howie, you only have control over your local. You don't have any control over the county or the school. This budget doesn't take into account any of those. I guess I can kind of just quickly go through the tabs. And again, I'll send this out to the new budget committee members with my apologies. Tab 1 is a summary. For those of you new to this, I kind of try to estimate what I believe the mill rate will be using all of the figures that we have currently on hand. Looking at the proposed totals, and this is not looking at revenue, which we will subtract off on the municipal side. Currently, without revenues, approximately 41% of this budget total is municipal, 53% would be school, and then 5.5% would be county. It will adjust with revenues, but that's how looking at it. The total budget is up 3.86%, the Chelsea budget being up about 2.9%, and you always calculate the school at 4% and county at 10%. Standard numbers, you'll see history usually documents that. The mill rate as proposed with this budget, as I presented to you today, is up 13.08%. That is using approximately $300,000 of your undesignated fund, which we can talk about later. That being said, this budget looks at approximately a rate increase of $1.84 on the mill rate to $17.04 per thousand, or $303.62 on an average home of $165,000 assessed value in Chelsea. The items of significance in this budget is overall expenses are up $218,000. That includes county, school, and town. Revenues are down about $15,000, and I did slightly increase the reserve accounts to account for a little bit money towards our proposed build. And I will tell you, the use of $600,000 last year from the undesignated fund balance is going to hinder the amount to be able to put it up again this year for using a higher amount. Now that being said, let me caveat it by saying we still don't have a 23 audit, so I don't have new numbers. I'm using 22's numbers, which skews the whole equation. It is in your book on section 30, you'll see. It makes it look like a negative. I don't know if it is a negative. I've asked the auditor twice for rough numbers and they don't have them for me. So, let me see. Every $5,000 adjustment that you make in this budget will adjust the mill rate by approximately 2 cents or $3.23 on an average home in Chelsea. You drop it by $5,000, somebody's bill is going to drop by $3, okay? Let me see what else. Currently, we have 2 full-time members in the front office, 2 part-time members. One works 1 day, one works 2 days, and then we have a part-time finance director. This budget does include moving our finance director from 2 days a week to 4 days a week. As we know, we continue to be haunted by the auditors to segregate the duties. I have started training with some of the front office staff to start learning the warrants. They give them to me, I sign them, or they give them to Sandra, she reviews them and signs them. So we're working towards that, but it's gonna take time to get there. The other goal with moving the deputy finance director to full-time is to be able to move the check reconciliation back in-house. As we know, the previous manager had sourced that out to the auditor. That's costing us about $700 a month to take care of. So this would be a huge savings for that. The budget also does include a proposed 4.5% increase for our team members. I will tell you the CPIU, the Consumer Price Index Urban for the Northeast, approximates a 12-month change of 3.5%. In other words, it costs us 3.5% more to live in this region. And with that, I also am proposing a 1% merit change. 1% isn't a lot to keep your employees, especially when you start investing in them and they start having time, they start knowing how to do things. So there is a proposed change of 4.5% on their pay. Let's see, what else do I have? Okay, so do you want me to go each department on what the changes are, or do you want to take the time to look at those, or I can go over them in the individual budget committee members and select board member meetings? What is your fancy, Chair Fisher?
I would give us the drastic increases.
Okay.
You know, not the little stuff, but I would say what has drove our budget up, you know, to where it is.
All right, so school is approximately using the 10%. It's 110,000, if I remember correctly in my head. Let me see. School is $120,000 increase. County would be approximately a $30,000 increase. So for the town, it's approximately a $120,000 increase. 30,000 of that would be administration salaries. Let me see what else I have that are huge. The administration expenses, bank charges, again, the audit stuff and whatnot, that's an increase of about 26,000. I did put in an extra 50,000 for the plow contract, as we know that went out to bid. I don't know what that number is going to be. That'll obviously get finalized in May when you possibly pick a new contractor. I did increase the sheriff's office number, keeping the same number of hours, which is 20 hours a week. It's estimated from Sheriff Mason that the fee is going to be approximately $100 an hour. They're working through their negotiations on their contract. So that being said, that increases that line by approximately $16,000 over the year. Insurances with new firefighters and a change in staff, that increases approximately $10,000. But I will tell you, with insurances, you are saving money as a municipality, because at this point, nobody takes health insurance in this town. They're taking the stipend instead, which, as you recall, you agreed to pay half of the 80% that it would cost them. So you're saving quite a bit by them not taking the insurances. I will reiterate, and I think last year in the budget meeting, we need to start to have a cushion, because what happens if I have two of them that are beneficial to take insurance, don't leave, and the new ones come in and take it? We're going to be somewhere in the vicinity of $15,000 an employee to cover their health insurance. So there's $30,000 that we're going to go to town meeting very quickly for it to fund. So most municipalities will usually have a cushion of 2 people in their health insurance, just in case. And as I said, reserve funds, I did increase by 20,000 to put 20,000 in the town office building reserve fund. Other than that, I left the reserves the way they were, and I did decrease the TIP amount. We don't seem to be using the TIF, which is going to be a subject for another meeting. You need to start using the TIF, and I think I had talked last year in the budget meeting about possibly using the TIF as part of my pay for working on grants and economic development and that sort of thing. So we're working towards that. But the other thing is, I learned that some of that TIF money can be used towards our new build. It's in the works. Reagan will come and speak to you about that. I think that is a 30,000 feet overview. And I can certainly be more detailed when I meet with that. As far as revenues, I will tell you I increased excise tax by about 50,000. That seems to be consistently going up. I also, let me see what else I changed. That was huge. Our revenue sharing's going down. I did increase our bank interest. I think some of you remember this from last year that were on the budget committee. When I first started here, I changed a lot of the investments that the town has. You were getting approximately 4, 5, up to 20,000 if I remember correctly one year. The first year I came, your interest went from $4,000 to $35,000. This past year, we're on track to make somewhere in the vicinity of 92,000. And that's just a little change in how I sweep the, not how I sweep, how I ask the bank to sweep the money overnight. We're getting a higher yield. Actually, Finance Director Devaney and I are meeting with Bangor Savings too. I told her I need to make more money. So she's coming and we're gonna talk some more on how to diverse this out and receive a little bit more. So you can see that's huge. That's $90,000. That's my pay that we've changed in interest. Now, will that drop when we take some money out to build? Obviously, we get that, but that's a lot of money for saving taxpayers. And we did receive a renewable energy reimbursement of approximately $45,000. We should get that every year. I'll remind you, that's just the difference of the solar farms. Don't have to pay in taxes, the state pays that for them. But we call it as miscellaneous income, even though it should technically be applied to taxes. I did reduce the use of undesignated. Revenue sharing went down about almost 40,000 estimated. LRAP we're estimating going up a little bit, and I think that's pretty much it on that. There are a couple of proposals in here, and when each of you look through your book, you'll see there's a proposal for a new website. I think the cost is approximately $7,000 if I remember correctly the first year. Several residents have asked about upgrading that. I've complained about the WordPress. It's very antiquated, it doesn't work, it's not ADA compatible. Civics Plus has given us a proposal which will meet all the requirements that we need to do for that. Also, there is a proposal in there to upgrade 3 computers in this office. As you know, I usually try to do 2 every year, starting a computer rotation. I did receive word that those, if we only do 2, we're gonna have one that's not gonna be supported. So we need to catch up, that'll complete the rotation, and then we'll start again next year on rotating 2 again until we get to the 3rd year and rotate, hit 3.
How long do you rotate computers, every year?
Everybody gets a new computer every 3 years because they start to not get supported with updates and security. So mine is now 2 years old. It won't be done this year. It will be on schedule to do the following year, fiscal year 27. So that's standard in any tech environment.
What about phones?
Phones.
Have we done anything with the phones?
I have not done anything with the phones. We need to send out a VoIP. Voice over Internet Protocol RFP, which I know that Vice Chair Susie had asked for. I just have not had time to write that RFP yet. It's probably not going to happen in this fiscal budget. If we're going to invest anything, I'd rather work on the website at this point.
We still having issues, or?
It hasn't been bad. We've been on Pioneer's butt to keep things updated. Once in a while we have a glitch, but it's not terrible. I also did put in here, and we can certainly talk about it in our one-on-one meetings, 2 things. New printers for the front office as far as their motor vehicle printers. The drivers just can't keep up with the new updates. They're very antiquated, as I said, a lot of things are in this office. And the dot matrix printer just doesn't work half the time. It loses data. They constantly fight with it. Sometimes they're handwriting title applications, and the state does not like that. So there are quotes in here for that. The last thing that I did put in this category, which we are in section 6, administration expenses was I did meet with a gentleman, what's today, Wednesday? Last Friday or Thursday, I believe, in regards to, and this is certainly something you can talk about. Have you seen the alert me or text me where you can get things out to people? It's amazing. A lot of smaller municipalities are getting, for instance, the road when it washed out last week. I could have sent an alert out, please avoid Windsor Road, we're having a water problem. Or, hey, come to our 175th celebration today, or it's happening this weekend. It's a small cost, you'll see the quote in here, so that's something to think about as we move forward. I have it for 2 municipalities on my phone, I love it. They tell me when the town office is closing, they tell me when the river's gonna rise. It keeps everybody alert. It's a much faster way to get out. Something similar to I am responding, but it's everybody with cell phones.
Great, more noise.
You don't have to sign up for it.
My granddaughter's school uses it.
Yes.
When,
Yes.
when there's no school, you get the text alerts and things.
Seems to be the wave of the future. I will tell you that roadside mowing continues to be a problem, so I did increase, sweeping continues to be the problem. And I just got a quote for the spring of $10,200. Guess what? I don't have that type of money in here. Are we gonna do it? Yes, we'll just skip on another line in that budget. But sweeping, it's one of those fine things that not a lot of people do. So they've got the market on it. Whatever the word I'm looking for is. They can get what they want. Buy a sweeper.
Monopoly.
Thank you, monopoly. Buy a sweeper.
There you go when you retire. Buy a sweeper.
I'm not retired.
Henry?
Buy a sweeper.
Let's say Henry's summer side hustle, there we go.
Yeah.
I like that. Fill in your potholes there.
Sweeping and mowing, you can totally make money on. This will be the 3rd year on your fire department payment for the new truck, so that'll be taken care of. You'll have 2 more on that. I did decrease the alternate CEO's hours to 2 hours a week. We haven't been using him, but I don't want to totally get rid of him either because he has some expertise that Greg doesn't necessarily have. So I did 2 hours a week. I also increased the ACO's salary by $1. Nobody wants to do that job. You need to just kind of protect that. $21 an hour to do her job. You can go to McDonald's and make more than that. It does include our 2nd year of our past due accounts to Gardner. For some of you that may not know, there were uncollectibles for the town of Chelsea. The board decided last year to span those payments out for 8 years at $4,500 a year. So this will be our 2nd payment. The new payment for Gardner includes what they forecast to be for uncollectibles, so this shouldn't happen again.
Got that right in?
No. I think that that's kind of where it would end for me because I don't have my presentation. Questions? I'm sorry guys for that are new. You would have seen my whole presentation.
Christine, you have a question?
Any? Yes.
Does the town have a technology management plan?
We do not have a technology management plan. In fact, I don't think the computers have been replaced prior to my arrival. So I started this little rotation to at least start to work on getting us to where we need to be for technology. We do have a contract with a technology, IT, thank you. Too many acronyms. An IT person, he tries his best to keep us up as much as we can. We just updated our server, merged some data over and whatnot, but it's done today. Tomorrow there's new technology.
Well aware of that. I was the CIO for the VA.
Okay, yeah.
And DOD.
Yeah.
So.
Slide will work for me very fine.
Yeah.
It's hate seeing organizations play whack-a-mole when it comes to technology. And unfortunately, somebody in your position always gets stuck with a hammer. You always have to react to the current situation, whatever it may be. And as I'm looking through the budget and I see some of the quotes that you're getting and the incorporation of the hardware, software, you know, cellular technology, internet technology, and everything else, should we have a master plan for where the town wants to be? And that way it takes a lot off your shoulders trying to Band-Aid fix this, and it would also give the selectmen select people more of an idea for budget forecasting in the future, that yes, we're gonna spend $10,000 on this year, but we're gonna do a $15,000 enhancement in this cycle and in this cycle and this cycle until you actually get to, because I heard you mention VoIP. VoIP is not cheap. But there's elements of VoIP that play into other pieces that would make a much better operational posture for not only the town office staff, but also the citizens of the town.
Absolutely.
That's why I say if we start to look at it from a global standpoint versus trying to Band-Aid fix and play whack-a-mole all the time, the savings could be tremendous in the long run. So.
And I think honestly, Andy, I'm trying to get there, and Rick has heard this from me 100 times, and this board has. I'm still trying, I'm finding things that I still don't know. Oh, geez, I didn't know that. I mean, Sandra and I will come across something, oh, where'd that come from? You know, there was just so many things, probably due to lack of staff, wearing too many hats, where are we turning it today, trying to keep up, that things just kind of got pushed a lot aside. Absolutely, a policy towards that would work. Do I have time to write it? Absolutely not. I might have had an hour today in my office because there was people in there, or I was at Augusta testifying in front of the legislature to help sell a piece of property for Chelsea. So there's constant, and I'm picking what I can work on at this minute.
Okay.
So, and that's unfortunately not a priority as much as I hate to say that.
I totally understand what you're saying. Totally understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that perhaps there's some expertise in the town with some of the other townspeople that could assist.
Are you volunteering?
I'll volunteer.
All right. Welcome aboard.
Anything else? Anybody? Somebody? Thank you for that presentation. It was a little longer than 10 minutes, but that's okay.
We'll take it out of the next month.
So I will remind the budget committee that your first meeting will be April 2nd at 6 o'clock here at the office. You don't get to join this year.
Trust me, I'm doing mine on the other end.
So that night, we'll go department by department, and I will try to detail you a little bit more on what I have in there. And we can start making some recommendations, and if you decide, because we don't get through it that night, we can go to April 16th. I try to have enough in your books to substantiate, to give evidence that what I'm suggesting works. And you have the history for 4 years there. So take a look at it. If you have questions before the meeting, please call. I'll send you my presentation so you can take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
That was a roll of your eyes.
No, it wasn't.
Pretty close.
That's fake news. All right, old business now, legal, none. Written communications, town manager's report, we are.
So can I just add to that a
You
little
may.
bit? We did post the roads last week, in case you haven't noticed. That was done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there. So they are all taken care of. We did have a little bit of an issue on Windsor Road, which we're addressing. I did have to add a little bit of gravel to that driveway that got washed out, so we took care of that.
Speaking of that, I've been thinking about this. First of all, did we find the pothole that was big enough to swallow the car?
The only thing that we could find, which wasn't even on the other end,
Opposite side.
was down here, so no. And I put on the Facebook post, please call us with it, location, nobody ever called. So,
Did you get that ball hole fixed on this side though?
it was asked, I'm not sure he's gotten to it, he's dealing with some personal issues right now, so hopefully he got to it. It is on the apron, so if anybody's hitting it, they've gotta be way off the road.
Well, it's been getting, it's been there for
Okay,
a while. I've seen
I'll
a lot,
double check
yeah.
with him tomorrow.
There's always water all over the road, people hitting it.
Okay.
Cause they come off the road flying.
It's turning the corner.
So, so the water coming across the road,
Yes,
and it did some damage to someone's driveway,
wash the dirt away.
wash the dirt away.
We're gonna take a look at the culvert when it goes down.
Is it in their town right away though? That's off there quite a ways.
Well, I mean, so my thought is that don't take this the wrong way as far as the town goes, but there was, I mean, it was epic between the rain and the snow melt.
Correct.
I mean, is the town responsible for an event like that? If it,
Well, that's where rod would come in handy, right?
It would,
That culvert's
It would.
definitely
yes, if we knew how,
crushing it.
how wide, how many rods
but if
wide.
water builds up and it goes over the road and it washes out 20 driveways,
I'm gonna tell you it's the right thing to do.
I get that, but could someone from the town say, hey, you're spending town money on a private resident?
I don't.
I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Again, it would be detailed on the rods wide, book. However, that water came across the town road.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that.
But
And
because of a
it could
frozen
be
culvert.
a culvert. We don't know who originally put that culvert in.
Right.
Maybe it was the town, could have been there 50 years ago when the county owned the road. I don't know. I'm making things right. We didn't have to add a lot of dirt.
So, what if there was no culvert there? There's just a low and water built up, the snow melt. I mean, is that a gray area? Is that a?
Well, as you recall, the property out on Hollowell Road, you got an easement from her to run the water out across her property, and you spent money on that. Right past your parents' house there, the one we just cleaned up this year, I don't remember the number, you know what I'm talking about?
Bodwin?
The one with the riprap, right?
Yes, the one with the riprap, we had to clean up the side near the cedars.
Morrison.
down
It's
across-
almost across from Crochet's.
Morrison.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, like I said,
It's the right thing to do. It's not, I am a huge advocate that I will not spend tax money on a private person's property. I know the rules, I've reiterated that several times to people for things that have been done in the past. This to me says, this is our issue. We have a water problem out there. We know it's a swamp. We've got to address it at some point. Now, will it be when we finally get to figure out what we're gonna do with that road instead of painting it black? Probably. We've gotta put a Band-Aid on it until then and take care of what we need. But Vice Chair Susie and I were out there a half hour that morning looking at it. We think it's frozen. I don't know, maybe it's plugged.
It's empty now.
Yeah.
It's
So-
thawed out.
Make a note, probably put a bigger culvert in.
Yeah, when we did the road, yeah. Okay, can I keep going?
yes, you may.
Okay. Start the clock. As I said earlier in the meeting, I did attend the gravel roads class last week. There's probably about 50 people there from a bunch of towns. Huge wealth of information. I brought home lots of books. I just have to have time to read them about gravel roads. And lastly, the thing that I do want to mention was this morning I was in Augusta testifying in front of the taxation committee. I'm trying to amend the law regarding selling tax foreclosed properties to alleviate the process of trying to notify heirs. Now this relates to the piece of property down here on Togus Road. As we all know, those people are deceased. New law says we have to find all the heirs and alert them to the sale, then we have to give them the proceeds. Excuse me, so I was trying to change the law, or attempt to have them change the law to state if a property is owned by a municipality for more than 5 years, we can do what we want with it as far as selling it, as long as the legislative body approves it. I had several towns testify in favor of it or provide written testimony in favor of it. I had one town there testifying in favor of it. He told them that the process is absolutely cumbersome and it's not working. I did have an attorney there for the elder care law firm testifying against it. He wants to make sure that the elderly get their fair share. I argued to the taxation committee, we're not here to take their money. That's not it. I just need an easier process. This is a unicorn. In my 30 years, I've never seen an issue like this, holding on to the property, and now I can't sell it without finding all these heirs. So they understood Chelsea's problem. I think we're probably gonna have an amendment to it. I have to go to a work session in 2 weeks where they're gonna ask me for some more input, so I'll work with some of the people around the state to, I guess, loosen the law up as long as a municipality owns a property for more than 5 years. So that's where we stand with that.
Good job. Making Chelsea great again.
You all set?
I'm set.
Thank you. Town office report is in there. Fire department's in there. 3 calls last month, huh?
Yeah, almost a record.
Code enforcement officer.
Yeah, he hasn't finished his.
We don't get those anymore.
ACO, that's in there. Any public comment on any of that? Verbal communication. Sir.
I think you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Boards and committees. Oh, I see none. Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Just want to remind everybody that next week, Wednesday the 19th, we have the chat with the manager here. And it's about the budget. And there's refreshments if anybody wants to come.
When is that again?
Wednesday the 19th. And then the next luncheon is Thursday the 20th here at the office at 11. It's a corned beef dinner because it's close to St. Patrick's Day. The speaker will be Habitat for Humanity. Under the 175th, our day of celebration is August 16th with a rain date of August 17th, which the 17th is actually when we turn 175. The facility use form was submitted and approved, so we're allowed to use all the grounds and the parking lots.
Wow.
We just recently had a fundraiser, the Cabin Fever Battle of the Bands. As most of you know, it was very well attended. After all the bills was paid, that fundraiser, we raised $4,294 to go towards the... We're currently near 10,000. I'm estimating it's going to be 12 to 13,000 to do the event. And we're still bringing in bottles from the bottle drive, so I'm pretty sure we're going to be there to cover all of the expenses. Comprehensive plan.
Hold on, when's the next meeting? 175th.
Tuesday, April, no, we're in March, right? Second Tuesday of the month. April 8th.
Will you be here?
I'll work on it. Not yet.
We've made a lot of headway and have a lot of things lined up, just a few more to go, and then we can start advertising and what we're going to be offering that day once we know. In fact, I have a contract for you for the dunk tank and all that stuff.
Oh, that's right, you're going around too, right?
Got my eyes on
Can't mess
you.
up my hair.
I thought we were starting on Friday night.
No.
No.
That got voted out a while ago.
No,
Why?
because it's hard enough to get volunteers for one day, let alone the whole weekend.
Yeah, man.
That's still to be determined.
No.
So, moving along, comprehensive plan. We're in hopes that it's gonna be completed by September. It won't be this town meeting.
Oh, okay.
It will be September. They're holding a public meeting. A survey link went out. I don't know if anybody got it. It's on the webpage of the town. It was in the last newsletter to take a survey. When our last meeting, they said that they had 38 people respond to the survey. There's going to be a public meeting to go over what the whole intent of the plan is and any questions you have, May 28th.
What time, Dawn?
I'm not sure. It might either 6 or 6:30.
Okay.
I think we're going to, I thought we'd do it here, but they all think, so we're gonna put in a use form and try to get the, school cafeteria. That's all I have.
Any public comment on that? Thank you. Municipal officers, Sherry?
I just want to thank everyone who volunteered to put that cabin fever reliever on. It was a great turnout. People had a great time. I look forward to the next one, so good job.
Nothing.
I have nothing either. I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:24. Motion and second. All in favor?
Thank you. I have stuff for you to sign.